It's interesting to think about the two traditions, especially with these two specific denominations/federations with the OPC and the URCNA. And some of the polity differences can be, and the things we find in books of church order, can be reinforced by institutional history. So we want to talk today about church history and the effect of it upon the life of the church, and not just its effect, but also its importance, why it's important to know the history of the church in order to be really a faithful Christian and to not make the mistakes of the past, for example. But just to raise one illustration, and please, Alan, add your insights because you have much more experience in history with your CNA brothers. But there tends to be sometimes a general suspicion of general assemblies and those types of things. So we find in the URCNA there often is this insistence on calling the denomination a federation. It's a federation of churches. Now, I know there's a range of views within the URC, so not everyone's the same. But because of what went so wrong in the Christian Reformed Church and some of the bureaucracies and other issues and the way that power was wielded at the denominational level, there can be a reaction to that and a suspicion of a centralization of government or efforts. And whereas we see that the General Assembly can be very helpful on certain things like Christian ed, or especially with missions, foreign missions, in terms of organizing efforts and going out there, the URCNA brothers can see that there are some advantages, but there's a reason why they might not just jump on board with those types of things because of the past, and a past that we don't share. Of course, the mainline Presbyterian Church has its history of
right.
Bureaucracy, but our beginnings and whatnot are a bit different here.
But with respect to the beginnings, we have done, and I could point those out in very specific ways, we have done very specific sorts of things, even in our adjudicatory. For example, the refusal for many, many years in the General Assembly for anyone to move the previous question, which is to end debate.
Right.
And other people would come in and say, well, why, and it had to do with the fact of the way Machen's trial was conducted, and his defense was cut off at the knees.
Right.
And so we said we don't want to end debate. And whether you agree with that or not, it's helpful. You need to appreciate some of that. So we need to appreciate our Continental brother, what they went through. They did go through Senate abuse.
Yes.
So it's sort of like, I came up with a certain kind of fundamentalism, and that certain Bible verses, I could hear verses read, and I would almost wince. And, when I was coming into the Reform world, people were like, what's wrong? You okay? Because this Bible verse had been misused.
Yeah.
The Bible verse had been used by church authorities to kind of beat you over the head with. And so it wasn't that so you got a problem with the Bible, somebody said? Well, no, I don't. It's God's word. I have a problem with how some people have used it.
Yeah.
And so and I think our brethren need to be sympathized with and said, they don't really want inefficient church government that doesn't work well. And I think they're coming around. We've had a lot of consultation with them. They've had a lot of consultation with us.
Sure.
And I know Mark Bube has done extensive consultation, and they've really appreciated that and have benefited. Yeah. And they've put in place some structures in the last, decade that they would have never in the first years done. But they've come to see, okay, well, there's some things that we can do that may appear to be more centralized than we earlier would have been comfortable with, but it helps. But it takes time.
Of course.
And
it's with 23.
taken us, only now at certain general assemblies will on certain questions. Now, the previous question does sometimes carry. But when I was first going to General Assembly, I'm almost at my 30th in a row. But when I first started going, the previous question did not carry. Right. It didn't carry. And I joined right in as I understood the reasons, and so I always voted against it, even when I thought we really should vote.
Right. It's just
there
something
was a
we
tradition
don't do.
That was OPC, and there are traditions that are URC, and you want to respect that. One of the problems, this is another matter, but in recent years, you think of movements like Federal Vision, and we can name others. It isn't that the Federal Vision men a lot of times, at least what they recognize as problems, that these are problems. They recognize a weakness in the doctrine of the church, doctrine of the covenant, but the solutions were sometimes you had the feeling of people who just showed up at the party and they said, here's what's wrong with the Reformed Church, you need to fix it. Well, you just showed up at the party. Maybe you should be quiet for a while and try to figure out sort of maybe it's not exactly as you think it is. And you need to kind of figure this out.